Hi, Suzanne from Flatwearable Artisan Jewelry. I'm going to show you another simple soldering project that you can do on silver-plated silverware. And that is to attach a pearl so it becomes a floating pearl. And there's nothing on the back, so it's not riveted. There's no drilling. What we're going to be doing is attaching a post. And we're going to do it on this pendant here. Okay, so we've got a little half-drilled pearl here, and if you're not familiar with half-drilled pearls, they are exactly what it says it is. It's drilled halfway through. And this is a genuine pearl, which has been dyed. It's a real pretty pearly gray look. So we're going to be doing this on silver plate with medium jeweler solder, which is solder that requires high heat. And the heat that is generated in this type of soldering is damaging to silver plate. So we're going to use a product that we carry called Fire Shield. And what Fire Shield is it's a product that we're going to brush on, put a thin coating on everywhere that we are not going to be soldering. And that's going to protect the plating from the damage of the high heat that we're going to be using for the soldering. So anywhere that you do not want the plating damaged, you're going to put on the Fire Shield. Don't need to have a really super heavy thick coating of it. So I'm going to put it all across the back. You want it everywhere, because just because you're heating on the front doesn't mean that the heat isn't going through to the back, so you want it everywhere. I'm using a couple of nickels here for a prop. Nickels are perfect to use as props in soldering because they do not melt under the intense heat. So I'm going to continue to put it on the face here. Again, it's going everywhere except for where I'm soldering the post on. Another really great benefit to Fire Shield is it will also prevent solder from flowing into places you don't want it to go. So if you're looking to keep solder from slopping out all over the place, paint the Fire Shield on. And this doesn't matter whether it's silver plate or sterling or any other type of soldering. Wherever you've painted it on, solder will not flow. So it's a great way to keep solder from making big messes all over the place. So there we go. You can see I've only left just a little bit of that center open, and that's where we're going to be doing the soldering. So the post is going to be made out of 20 gauge sterling silver wire, and we're going to start out by cutting a piece longer than the post is going to be. And the reason for that is we need it longer for the third hand to hold it, just to make sure I have a good connection between the two. I'm just going to flatten that out a little bit on the bottom edge so it's not pointed from the flush cutter. Flush cutters are supposed to cut flush, but they don't always get things exactly flush. So if you sand that, you know you're going to get it. You're going to get it just right, so you don't have a point there. And with a point, you don't have as good of a connection. So in order to get that down there to where it's connected fully, start by putting it in your third hand, lining it up, then picking it up, setting it to the side, press down slightly, pick it up, and put it right back where you want it to go. Then you're assured that it is connected fully there with the silverware. We're going to be using medium jeweler solder for this. And that is right here. Medium jeweler solder, we carry that on our website. And I'm going to cut a small pallion. One of the biggest mistakes that people make when they first begin soldering is using too much solder. A little solder goes a long way. The only thing you're going to end up with by using too much solder is a lot of mess and cleanup. So this is all I'm going to be using. And I'm going to put that down there on the silverware to where it's touching the post. I'm going to be using Mighty Flux. We do carry Mighty Flux on our website. I put it in a spray bottle. Go to the dollar store and get yourself a spray bottle. I just emptied out a hydrogen peroxide bottle. I like the spray application. And I know I get a nice good coating of flux. So I'm going to use my acetylene torch. You can use a butane torch. It does take longer because the heat isn't as intense. But for the sake of time, I'm going to use my acetylene. And what we want to do is we want to heat the air surrounding the piece that we're working on, which I'm going to just call pendant from here on out. From the piece, from the pendant here. And heat the air around it. Then I'm going to start concentrating my flame on the pendant itself. So you need to remember that solder flows in the direction of heat. So in order to prevent the solder from going up the post, we want to heat the piece first. If you heat the post first, the solder will flow up the post and will not attach the post to the silverware. So I'm going all around the post. We have a little bit of a heat sink going on because we have this laying on nickels and we have it being held by a third hand. And what that means is the heat is being drawn away from the piece that we're working on because it is touching those other items. It's not a problem, it just makes things take a little bit longer. Alright, so I have my solder chip here, and because I want it to flow all the way around, I want to make sure my flame goes all the way around the post. When you start heating, you'll notice that the flux becomes white, and then it becomes clear and shiny. And then all of a sudden, you get the flow, which we just did. And I'm just drawing the heat all the way around it to make sure the solder has gone all the way around the post itself. All right, you don't want to remove your third hand immediately. You want to give that a chance to cool down a little bit. You don't want to create what we call thermal shock, and that is by trying to remove the heat too quickly. The change in temperature can cause the pieces to separate. So if you want to cool a little bit faster, if you put that on a bench block, the block helps to draw the heat out of the piece. And it looks like we have a nice connection there. So I'm going to quench this. I'm going to clean this up, and then I'll be back to show you where we go from next. Alright, I have quenched the piece. It has cooled off, and so now we just need to clean that up. Before I clean it up, I'm going to take that post down to the proper length just so I don't accidentally bump it and break it. And if you've done the soldering properly, it's not going to come off of the silverware, but it may break somewhere along the length of it. So I'm going to use my flesh cutter. It's better to cut it a little bit long to start with. than it is to cut it too short. Some pearls are drilled deeper than others, so you just kind of want to test fit until you have the post the proper length. And that's almost right there. Just another hair off of it. Okay, so that's how long our post is going to be. And just test fit. And when it sits down onto the silverware, you know you've got it right. So I'm going to go ahead and clean this up. One of my favorite tools to use in silversmithing is a brass brush. You can use a brass brush to do the cleanup. The fire shield can be a little bit of a pain to remove because it kind of bakes on there essentially with the level of heat that we're working with. So I'm going to use what is essentially a brass brush, and it's on my flex shaft. And that way I can clean it up real quick. Just be real gentle when you're going around the post so you don't disturb it. You can tumble. You're going to do any finishing work that you want to do at this point. Once the pearl is set, you're finished. So however you choose to finish this, whether you're going to tumble it or you're going to polish it by hand like I'm doing, you want to have that all completed before you set the pearl. So, got that all cleaned up and ready to go. So now it's just a matter of setting the pearl. Pearls are best set with a 2-part epoxy. And what I have here is some epoxy from Harbor Freight. This it's inexpensive and it works really well. So you're going to put an equal amount of the adhesive and the hardener side by side. I'm going to mix them up, give them a thorough mixing, and you're going to apply some of that to the post all the way around. And you can also apply some to the bottom of the pearl. This pearl happens to have a little bit of a flat bottom, so it's got a little surface there for you to grip onto, for the glue to grip onto. And then you're just going to set the pearl on the post. And you can use a small clamp to hold that. Usually this is set really well. Give it about a half an hour. And that's how you're going to set a pearl onto a piece of silver-plated silverware jewelry. And you can see there's absolutely no damage to the plating whatsoever. So we do carry the fire shield. On our website, we carry a number of soldering supplies, including the medium solder and the Mighty Flux. So you can check those out. If you have any questions, make sure you post them and I'll be happy to answer. And we'll talk to you again soon. Bye-bye.